Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, lawmg.com. The IU School of Education, preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching in Indiana and around the world. education.indiana.edu. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. The Radio and TV News Endowment, a fund established by listeners and viewers to sustain reporting of Indiana news. More information at indianapublicmedia.org/support. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Despite some community opposition, the City of Bloomington is moving forward with the purchase of a controversial armored truck.
The mayor's abuse of procedure and his acting unilaterally demonstrates that he doesn't think that he's accountable.
Ahead, details about how the city plans to use the vehicle and when it might be in service.
The Utilities District of Western Indiana has cut almost $1 million from its budget. Ahead, what that means for ratepayers.
While the opioid epidemic dominates headlines, meth is still a serious problem in the Hoosier state.
It's an ongoing thing. We do one thing, they take countermeasures.
Plus, we'll talk to a local glass artist whose pieces will be on sale at the White House. Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. The Bloomington Police Department's Critical Incident Response Team will have access to an armored vehicle as early as this summer. Mayor John Hamilton announced yesterday the city is moving forward with the purchase despite opposition from some residents. But as Barbara Brozier reports, protest over the decision could continue.
This is what democracy looks like!
Members of the Black Lives Matter Bloomington Coalition have been protesting the purchase of the armored vehicle for weeks, saying the city should have asked for public comment before signing a contract.
The mayor's abuse of procedure and his acting unilaterally demonstrates that he doesn't think that he's accountable to the civilian population when it comes to making these decisions.
After receiving about 500 comments about the armored vehicle, the city is moving forward with the purchase. City officials say the feedback was split between those in favor of the purchase and those opposed to it, but it comes down to keeping people safe.
We got a comment from someone who was involved in the incident that prompted the first acquisition of an armored vehicle, saying they had to leave their house under potential fire in their own vehicle. Felt like they were in a cowboy movie.
Bloomington police previously had access to an armored vehicle, but retired it in 2012. Hamilton is recommending several changes to the new one based on public feedback.
We're changing the color from dark blue to light gray. We're going to be sure to affix decals and notification of a rescue vehicle on it.
Hamilton is also asking the police department and public safety board to adopt updated protocols dictating when the vehicle will be deployed. He wants the city council to draft a resolution that says how the vehicle should and shouldn't be used, such as prohibiting its use for crowd control. Only the Critical Incident Response Team will have access to the Lenco Bearcat.
I think over the last 2-3 years we've been out 25 times, and those have been on high-risk search warrants, those have been on barricaded subject type calls and hostage type calls.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
That's not enough to address concerns of protesters who say the lack of transparency surrounding the acquisition is one of many concerns. They worry the vehicle will be used to intimidate already marginalized groups, and they plan to keep making their voices heard.
So that's why the ordinances that we're working with city council members to introduce are going to legally mandate how the Bearcat is used, are going to pose specific consequences for violating those protocols.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Barbara Brozier.
Hamilton says the Public Safety Board will work on drafting protocols for deploying the armored vehicle over the coming months. The city doesn't have a delivery date for the equipment. The CEO of the Utilities District of Western Indiana says he's excited to be sharing some good news. The rural electric co-op has been plagued with problems. The former leader was fired amid claims of money mismanagement, and the FBI is investigating the co-op. CEO Doug Childs took over in November. In what he termed the State of UDWI report, Childs gave an update this week on what he's accomplished in his first 4 months. Sarah Whitmire reports.
Childs says in 100 days, he's cut $1 million from the co-op's budget.
We hit the ground running, and we've made some tremendous progress here at UDWI.
Childs has reduced health care costs by more than $300,000 and personnel costs by about $200,000.
Childs says they've identified lots of areas to make cuts. For example, they saved $5,000 just by cutting back their trash expenses.
When I came here, I looked out one morning, and employees were literally bringing their trash in to throw it in our dumpster, and which seemed awfully odd to me. There was just a common practice, and so we wound up basically having an extra dumpster around just to do that. So you can imagine that didn't take me very long to remove that, to have that written. When you see the dumpster, $4,700, it's a lot of money.
Ratepayers might notice a slight reduction in their bills, but Childs says the savings will likely be used to help fund capital projects.
Like most electrical systems in the country, it's very old and needs a lot of money. So you've got to balance the need to really put some money back in your system, rebuild your system, with the fact that your ratepayers are hurting and your rates are high.
He notes that the $1 million budget savings is enough to rebuild 10 miles of utility line. By far the biggest thing that determines how much UDWI customers pay is how much the co-op pays Hoosier Energy for power. 51 cents of every dollar goes towards the actual purchase of power, and that's largely out of UDWI's hands to negotiate or reduce that rate. Still, Childs says he thinks there's more places he can trim fat from UDWI's budget.
What I'm excited about if we can get some of these legal issues in back of us, then there's significant savings there in legal expenses. And I do think there's some more right sizing to do, and some personnel and some other things, some other areas.
It's UDWI's policy not to comment on pending litigation, but former CEO Brian Sparks is suing the co-op for breach of contract. He argues the co-op owes him for unpaid wages. In a countersuit filed in February, the co-op claims, among other things, that Sparks spent thousands upon thousands of dollars of co-op money on his personal expenses, and that he coded well over $1 million for donations that in reality were for his personal benefit and business not related to the electric co-op.
Be patient with us. We're not going to break the rules anymore. We're going to do things the right way. And in a business prudent way, and we're going to go out and we're going to talk to people, and I like to say we're playing offense again. We're going to get back, re-engage people, and get to where members are proud of being a UDWI customer.
UDWI has more than 16,000 customers in Clay, Davies, Du Bois, Greene, Knox, Lawrence, Martin, Monroe, Owen, Sullivan, and Vigo counties. Childs is holding listening sessions throughout the district and responding to the feedback he gets. One example he mentioned was at one of those meetings in Linton. A ratepayer shared concerns about how much work crews out in the field were actually getting accomplished. Childs checked the GPS data in the trucks and now regularly monitors where crews are and how much time they're spending there. This fits into another goal he's working towards, changing the culture at UDWI and increasing accountability. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Sarah Whitmire.
UDWI's new sharpened focus is to provide reliable electric service at the lowest possible price. Now for headlines, we go over to Barbara Brosier, who has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thanks, Joe. Indiana is seeing a sharp increase in the number of women running for a seat in the state legislature. There are 75 women campaigning in the May primary, double the number of women who ran 4 years ago. More than 50 women are in the Democratic race, and 23 candidates are running in the Republican primary. In Indiana's General Assembly, no woman has been the state Speaker of the House or the President pro tem of the Senate. The average Hoosier's grocery bill will be slightly more this year. The Farm Bureau estimates people will see about a 2% increase. Now, that nominal increase is despite the average price for many products, including bagged salad, eggs, and vegetable oil, increasing by double-digit percentages. The Farm Bureau says falling dairy prices, though, have helped offset those increases. A panel at IU this week focused on the United States' global engagement, foreign policy, and Congress's role. Former Representative Lee Hamilton says the U.S.'s leadership is critical, especially in times of continued foreign negotiations with countries like Iran and North Korea.
They don't want to consult on an ongoing basis, week to week, day to day. And if you don't consult on an ongoing basis, consultation in a crisis doesn't work so well.
Right. Hamilton is critical of what he calls a weak Congress that sacrifices its role by giving all of its power to the president. He says the branches of government need to clash over policy and then work together to come up with solutions. A local science group is hoping the 9th Congressional District candidates will consider the role science plays in politics if elected to office. Joe Wren reports.
The group Concerned Scientists at IU hosted a candidate forum Wednesday night. The 3 Democratic primary candidates attended.
I know the importance of scientific funding. I know the importance of making sure that, for example, National Institutes of Health is able to fund basic scientific research.
While religion fills the gaps for billions on our planet, I do not see the need to compete nor condemn people's beliefs in divinity, because scientific method holds the highest standard of all.
It goes to show that real change can begin right here in the heartland. I believe that for a long time. There's a lot of really good, really progressive people here.
Incumbent Representative Trey Hollingsworth was invited to attend but declined the invitation. The Indiana primary is May 8th.
The leader of a white nationalist group has pleaded not guilty to battery charges. Matthew Heimbach appeared in Orange County Court this week. He's accused of attacking his wife and her stepfather earlier this month. Heimbach founded the Traditionalist Worker Party, which the Southern Poverty Law Center describes as a neo-Nazi group that advocates for racially pure communities. Heimbach declined to comment as he left the courtroom. His next court appearance is May 30th. 3 years after the HIV outbreak in Scott County, community organizers are still working to find long-term solutions to the opioid epidemic. The Bloomington-based Indiana Recovery Alliance hosted training this week to give social workers and those in related fields more tools to address addiction and recovery. Samantha Edwards is an outreach advocate in Greene County. She's trying to establish a clean needle exchange in her community.
And I've actually had several people say, I would support that, but, and then they explain that other people don't support it and that's why they can't support it.
There are 8 needle exchanges in Indiana, including in Monroe and Scott counties. The Brown County Planning Commission is ironing out the details of a plan to allow the construction of tiny houses in the county. The commission passed an ordinance this week that lowers the minimum dwelling size requirements. A single-family house with 1 story can have a dwelling space as small as 240 square feet. The commission still has to address minimum lot sizes. It accepted public comment on that issue after approving the new dwelling size requirements.
Brown County has, I forget how many tourist homes now, which are no longer available for residents. They're tourist homes. And with that, we have a declining residential population.
Schultz says tiny houses would open up more affordable housing options. Other residents worry about unknown issues that could arise as a result of the smaller dwellings. The commission didn't reach a decision, but moved to continue the discussion at its meeting next month. A space station the size of a school bus is predicted to hit parts of Indiana by Sunday. The craft is traveling so fast that researchers won't know exactly where it will hit until 4 hours before the crash. Link Observatory CEO Greg McCauley says the crash will be similar to a meteor shower, so there's no need to prepare in advance.
Just keep looking up. It's a spectacle up there. And learn all you can. Go outside your backyard with a simple pair of binoculars and you'll be absolutely amazed what you see.
The Chinese space station was launched in 2011 and stayed in operation until 2013. The craft ran out of fuel and will crumble once it enters the atmosphere. The size of the pieces may vary. Some could be the size of hail, while others could be a few hundred pounds. And 6-foot Coke bottle sculptures are going up around Terre Haute's downtown. It's an effort to boost tourism and brand the city as the birthplace of the Coke bottle. The Vigo County Historical Museum's development director says the Root Glass Company started manufacturing the bottles in 1915.
They said, we want a design that is very clearly the Coca-Cola bottle, that it can't be mistaken for anything else. And so we thought it was interesting that the designs on our sculptures basically are camouflaging this bottle, but you can still recognize it as the Coke bottle.
Local artists painted the 27 fiberglass bottles, and sponsors helped decide each design. The artwork reflects Terre Haute's history, represents the sponsor's business, or are just artistic designs. Joe, how cool to see the variety on those Coke bottles, too.
It'd be fun to see them go up downtown Terre Haute.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Barbara. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. The number of meth labs in the state is declining, but police say there's just as much meth in Indiana as ever. Ahead, meth addiction and the toll it's taking on the Hoosier state. Plus, an Indiana glassmaker is selling his work at the most famous address in America. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
The WTIU-WFYI News Team connects Indiana to the world. We bring you the top news of the day on radio, TV, and online. We round up the stories that have people talking each week and dig deep into the issues that affect your community the most. The WTIU-WFYI News Team is where you are and telling your story.
$10,000.
15? 15, you think?
20, 21,000?
600.
20. 18.5.
24.
It's at least 40.
Look at it.
4,500,000.
650.
20.
650.
This textile would be worth about $500,000.
$500,000?
No way.
I knew it. It's just a blanket.
Laying on the back of a chair. Well, sir, you have a national treasure. Wow. A national treasure. Congratulations.
I can't believe this.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. 5 years ago, Indiana was dubbed the meth capital of the United States. Legislators partnered with law enforcement to create a plan hoping to lower those numbers. In one way, it worked. The number of meth labs has been steadily declining, but police say there's still just as much meth in the Hoosier state. Meth is being brought into the state from other parts of the country and even the world. The root of the problem is addiction. Brock Turner joins us from the newsroom with more.
That's right, Joe. Indiana's meth problem has been growing a lot in the shadows of the opioid epidemic. You might think that if the number of meth labs have decreased, the amount of meth has also decreased, but police say that is not what has happened. Lisa Livingston never intended for meth to control her life.
The first time I got introduced to it, it was just because it was a cool thing to do. Everybody else was doing it at a party, and I was like, you know, I'll try it. And what I know today is that first time that I picked that drug up was a choice.
What started as recreational use would soon lead to addiction. Livingston says she wanted to stop, but she reached a breaking point in 2013.
I started getting deathly sick because I used methamphetamine every day from 2012 until 2013, every day. My body was shutting down because I was to the point that I couldn't even get high again to function, and I was laying in bed deathly sick right before I got arrested.
That arrest would serve as a wake-up call.
So if I hadn't have been arrested, I don't think that I would have lived in probably another 30 days. And that's the God's honest truth.
Livingston turned her life around. She sobered up and founded a drug recovery home for women in southern Indiana. She gave us a tour last week, but looming large over our meeting was her pending court appearance to face charges for her 2013 arrest. She was hopeful her actions would prove she had beaten drug addiction and had escaped the vicious cycle. But she was sentenced to 30 years, Lisa isn't alone. The Department of Corrections say 1 in 3 Hoosiers residing in Indiana state prisons are battling addiction to methamphetamine. State laws have made it harder to obtain the ingredients people need to make meth, particularly pseudoephedrine. But police say that hasn't stopped the problem. It just changed how people are getting meth. For one, labs are smaller now. And a new pipeline for getting meth is also taking hold.
Smells like a meth lab. Yeah. What you have here is what's termed as a one-pot reaction vessel. That's in the Gatorade bottle. It holds the remnants of the ingredients. There's some evidence of some lithium, batteries that are cut open, your cold medicine blister pack. You've got a salt container that salt was probably combined with, I'm going to guess, sulfuric acid to create a hydrochloric acid gas generator, which is this item. Whoever's done this realizes that these things are pretty dangerous.
Greg Westfall is the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration's Indianapolis office. He says meth is flooding into the United States from cartels south of the border.
They could manufacture methamphetamine stronger, cheaper, and get it into the United States for a much larger profit.
He says much of the meth in Indiana comes from cartels in central Mexico. Once meth enters the United States, it spiders throughout the country, eventually into the hands of local dealers. Police have no idea how much meth is entering the United States through the border, but they know the number is higher than the 90,000 pounds the DEA seized in 2017. That's worth millions of dollars on the street. However, few of the officers I spoke with believe President Donald Trump's proposed border wall would have much of an effect on the amount of methamphetamine or other drugs entering the United States.
It's an ongoing thing. We do one thing, they take countermeasures. We do something else, they make countermeasures. It's a constant back and forth thing.
They say it's a matter of supply and demand.
And something is going to have to fill that void. Now, is it going to be another drug? I really don't think so. I think I don't see cocaine making a resurgence or something like that. They're just going to go back to doing what they were doing before in Indiana, which was cooking a lot of methamphetamine.
They realize there's only so much law enforcement and policing can do. They say community support and mental health resources are vital to ensuring people stay sober.
It depends on what county you're in. Some counties have drug court where users can get their sentences modified, and they have all kinds of programs and stuff for them to do. Some counties have that, some counties don't.
Livingston recognized the need when she started the breakaway. That's why she wiped out much of her savings to get it going.
I'm from a small Indiana county, and there wasn't a lot. There was a meeting with 4 old guys that talk about alcohol, and I would go there and I was like, I can't relate to them. And so I would stay clean for a little bit, and then I would end up back in a relapse. And I'll tell you, the only reason why I quit using for a lot of years was because I didn't have the resources to find it.
Livingston's drug rehab center will continue to operate while she's serving her sentence.
I'm guilty. I told on myself that day. I surrendered my will because I knew I just did because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I don't regret what happened that day because I wouldn't be here today if it didn't happen.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Brock Turner.
A Kokomo glass factory can't keep up with demand for a particular bunny ornament. And it's not because Easter is just around the corner. The White House gift shop ordered 100 of the white stained glass bunnies after coming across them on the website of Kokomo Opalescent Glass. Now, since then, word has gotten out and orders keep coming in.
The headline in the paper was like, 4 letters or 4 inches high. It said presidential bunnies, which they really aren't. But that's how it got started, and it's just, people just went nuts.
He says as far as he knows, the order wasn't from Vice President Mike Pence's office. The phone call came from a lady who runs the White House gift shop. Jennings says he's made 250, including some custom brown or pink bunny orders. And check this out. This is the moment the IU women found out they'd play in the WNIT championship game on their home turf.
And the Hokies are coming to Bloomington.
Tonight our crowd had an incredible amount of energy, and once again we're just really grateful that they showed up tonight, and we ask that once again, just one more time, they come out on Saturday at 3 and help us.
The women defeated TCU Wednesday night to advance to the final game. They take on Virginia Tech tomorrow at 3 at Assembly Hall. And that's the end of this program, but our work continues online at WTIU-News.org.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber, the Giga City Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Mallard Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, lawmg.com. The IU School of Education, preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching in Indiana and around the world. education.indiana.edu. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. The Radio and TV News Endowment, a fund established by listeners and viewers to sustain reporting of Indiana news. More information at indianapublicmedia.org/support. And by WTIU members. Thank you.